Video games are everywhere, and most, if not a lot of people, play them. The general view on people who play video games is that they are either degenerates or just lazy people. But this just isn't true. Video games have been proven to cause violence, but they also have positive effects that can outweigh their drawbacks. I'm sure that all of you have played a video game or do play video games at least once in your life, but didn't know that it gave you a positive impact. I've played video games for as long as I can remember, and people call me a caring and anything but violent person. So if video games cause violence, I should be the most violent person there is. Today I will talk about the positive benefits on the body and on the mind that video games can have that make you anything but violent. I will talk about how they can improve your attention span, how they can be used in teaching, and some of the emotion regulation that they can help. Let's start out by asking how video games can improve mental functionality. Video games are commonly referred to as intellectually lazy and sedating, but this couldn't be more wrong, says Isabella Granick, Adam Lobel, and Rooker in their article, The Benefits of Playing Video Games. Shooter video games have been known to cause violence. However, these people had a test of naive gamers or people who have never or almost never played a shooter video game before. They had half of them play a shooter video game or play a game of a different genre. So, like an adventure game or a role-playing game. The results showed that, compared to the control group, the people playing the non-shooter video game, participants showed faster and more accurate attention allocation, so attention spans, higher spatial resolution and visual processing, so taking in a situation faster, and enhanced mental rotation abilities, being able to change a subject on a dime. Meta-analysis of this test found that the spatial skills learned from the shooter video games were the same as from high school and college classes meant to develop these same skills. It showed that video games can teach you fast and that they're transferable to non-video game scenarios. Scholars also say that video games are good for problem solving. They teach kids creative problem solving and to use that instead of reading from a manual and taking it at face value. Video games hone in your skills, but what can they do about health benefits? Video games can be bad for your health long term. That's not a surprise. If you play 10 hours of video game each day, that might be a little too much and you might want to cut back. Screens can cause eye burning and dryness. For most people, this can be fixed with a good night's sleep, but some people it actually is permanent. If you play video games for 2 to 5 hours, video games can actually be a good source of health, says The Central Role of Stress Relief in Video Games, Motives and Preferences by Jessica Shallock. Stress is a real problem in America, especially in teenagers. They have to balance jobs, social life, and school, and it can be really, really hard sometimes. Video games have been proven to help counter stress of everyday life. Several studies have proven that video games lead to large amounts of stress recovery, and it has been proven that video games can elicit all 4 parts of the recovery process and actively used to recover from high stress situations. She conducted a study that found of 1,614 participants, all of them were able to use video games as a stress relief method despite their level of social support and social abilities. Another test found that playing computer games during work hours in the workplace can help reduce work-related stress. Sadly, there are a few drawbacks to using video games as stress relief. One of those drawbacks are VGA or video game addiction, which is more and more commonly a common found addiction. Video games are built to be addicting. It helps their lifespan extend, and it gives the business more money. So people who have VGA could just be saying they're using it for stress relief, but it's really just an excuse to play video games more. There's also physical health risks. They're very commonly known to not be the best for you. They ask that you sit for hours and hours with little movement other than your hands and your arms. Some ways to reduce these physical health risks would be getting a standing desk. For a 150-pound person, by sitting for an hour, you burn 68 calories. But if you were to be standing for that 1 hour, that same 150-pound person would burn 114 calories, That is almost double just by standing up. Also, you can set goals for yourself. If you die, for every time you die in a game, you could do 10 push-ups, or for every hour of video games you play, the next day you could do 10 minutes of exercise for every hour. Not only can video games provide cognitive training and health benefits, it can also be used in teaching. A motivated learner cannot be stopped, says this next article, Digital Game-Based Learning by Mark Prensky. Unfortunately, that just usually isn't the case. Kids, they're not motivated when it comes to school. The most common terms to describe school is boring and dry. Teachers wish that there was a way that they could teach their kids and motivate the kids to teach themselves. However, there is a $30 million business teeming with the motivation that these teachers want, the video game business. Video games can keep kids and adults alike in their seats for hours and days with full attention, constantly trying to beat out their past failures and reach new heights. This is way different than what's directed at school, but has everything you want in an attitude. It has interest, cooperativeness, competitiveness, and actively trying to better themselves. It makes a lot of sense to want to connect video games and school. The main problem that we used to have was the demographic. When video games first came out, they were marketed to boys only, adolescent boys. So if you were an adult that wanted to play video games, you were commonly seen as childish. Or if you were a girl that wanted to play, you were seen as boyish. Now, many different people of many different cultures are joining the video game craze. So what changed and why are more people coming to video games? Well, games have been out for 30 years now, and we're just now seeing kids that who were born into the video game craze, grow up into fully fledged adults. These gaming natives think differently because their brains have adapted to the new technologies as they grew up. It is estimated that kids will play 10,000 hours of video games before they turn 21 days, 21 years old. I believe this is evidence enough that video games will be added to the teaching curriculums in the next few years to increase kids' motivation towards school, make learning more fun for the kids, and to help streamline the process of learning. It is undeniable that video games do have negative effects. There's no way around it, but it can be countered out by the ways that they can help us. In my opinion, all the health and learning benefits are worth the few drawbacks that video games give. Video games can help improve our brains with decision-making skills and reaction speeds. They can help us in learning with focus and more interactive learning. They can even help us in stress related to work, school, and just everyday life. Video games have these benefits come on top of already being a fun and interactive source of media. Video games have an ability that no other media has. They can teach us without telling us or showing us, but by physically letting us interact with these things, especially with the inclusion of virtual reality and augmented reality. Video games can hone our skills and teach us without even leaving our living rooms about anything in the universe these days. And that is why I think the benefits of video games outweigh the drawbacks. Thank you.